You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. Today we welcome two guests to talk about Sally Davies' new book, New Yorkers. The first guest, believe it or not, is Sally Davies herself, and we're also joined by photographer, writer, and fellow B&Her, Jill Waterman. Welcome to Sally and welcome to Jill. Sally Davies is a New York City photographer, if there ever was one. Her images of the Lower East Side and East Village just ooze Gotham, and her work is appropriately in the permanent collection of the Museum of the City of New York and the New York City 9/11 Memorial Museum. Her archive was recently acquired by NYU and is now part of the downtown collection of Fales Library. Sally's photographs have been featured in the New York Times and the New York Post, among others, and exhibited at the Bernarducci Meisel Gallery. In 2014, Sally received a citation from the City of New York for her ongoing commitment to photographing the Lower East Side. And like all great chroniclers of New York City, she's Canadian. Wouldn't you know it? There you go. Jill Waterman has joined us on the podcast in past years and has recently published an insightful interview with Sally, which we're going to reference today. Jill is a photographer, an editor, and writer, and she's worked for Photo District News and B&H Explorer, and she's the author of the 2006 book, Night and Low Light Photography. Jill's photo series, The New Year's Eve Project, has documented New Year's celebrations around the globe for the past 37 years. You know, Jill, I think you would have gotten it right by now, but okay, we'll have to talk a little bit. Again, welcome to both of you to the show.
Thank you.
Great to have you here.
Great to be here.
Sally, this is a really, really neat book that captures a certain spirit of the New York City mood, but what got a photographer more known for wandering the streets and neighborhoods into the various homes and apartments of the city? And like, what's the magic word for getting into people's apartments in this New York City? Because I've tried going over to strangers and say, listen, you look interesting. Can I come and photograph your apartment? And I've never gotten a positive. I got one, but that scared me off a little bit. Anyway, how do you do it?
Well, I think being a 65-year-old broad gets you in the door. It's not quite as intimidating as a young man. But I think after getting my archive in Fales Library and in the museum, within a few days of that, it occurred to me that nobody in 50 years who is going to look at any of this stuff has a clue who lived inside these places. So it was a combination of that and feeling like I needed a bit of a break from the street work. And I just got up that day and said, that's it. I'm just going to do this. And I thought, well, I'll probably have to put an APB out on Facebook or something and see if I can get people. But I didn't have to. You know, I started with 3 people that I knew, and everybody knew somebody who knew somebody. And by the end, I had people calling me saying, can you put my parents in the book? It's like, why not? Yeah.
And did you put the parents in?
I did.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
I did.
Yeah, that's great.
I did.
Yeah, I noticed from Jill's interview, you know, she asked a question and you basically were taking all comers. Is that true? I mean, whoever asked got in?
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Well, I guess you have to, because you don't know what you're turning down. I mean, you could find interesting people. It turns out their environments are kind of boring, but you never know what to expect from people. And that's the bottom line. It surprised me as soon as you open up the door what this person's really about.
Well, and also when I first decided to start doing this, I did not have a book deal. So it was going to be just something I was doing like everything else I just do for myself. And then about maybe 10 photos in, I was offered the book deal. So that kind of lit a fire under my butt a bit, and I had to get focused. But because I didn't really have what am I trying to say? I didn't really have an exact idea of this book, so I just thought, I don't want my opinion of anything in this. At least at the beginning, I just wanted to shoot people and shoot. I thought that randomness was true of New York City.
Absolutely, sure. Yeah.
How did the publisher How did the publisher find out about the project?
I was included a few years ago in a book by the same publishing company, Ammonite Press in the UK. They did a book called Masters of Street Photography, and they picked, a handful of people from around the world, and they picked me. So I had a lovely relationship with them from that. And the editor from that book was in New York on some other business, and we met, and he said, what are you up to these days? And I said, I'm doing this kind of nutty thing. I'm shooting total strangers in their living rooms. And I had some on my phone. So he looked at those and said, oh my God, this is great. Let's do a book.
Wow. That's fabulous.
I was so lucky. In my whole adult life, people have been asking me, when are you going to do a book? And I always said, when somebody else pays for it.
Good,
really
good point.
Well, everybody's self-publishing now, and that can be $30,000-$40,000. I don't try this at home kind of thing. That's not in my snack bracket. So I was really grateful to be able to do that book, even though because of COVID it got a little bumpy, but it got out there. Nobody's more shocked than I am.
And real quickly, you'd mentioned that you didn't want to put any of your opinion in there and you wanted the randomness of this. Do you feel that your street photography does put your opinion in it? I mean, to some people, street photography is kind of random. So how do you differentiate?
Well, not to belabor this point, but I don't really think of myself as a street photographer in the classic sense, of Winogrand and those people. Mm-hmm. I'm an artist. I'm a painter. I'm a photographer looking for a photo. So I go around looking for stuff that I think is what I'm trying to say, which is very different from the book, which is like, I didn't want to say anything. Right. I just wanted to shoot you at home in whatever you wanted to wear with all your stuff. Right. And let that kind of story speak for itself.
Something I'm kind of curious about is that, again, most of your photographs up to this point have been outdoors in the streets, called street photography or not. And I'm referring to them more as environmental portraits, which is exactly what you're doing indoors as well. They're really a person in their environment in some manner. How did your shooting approach change going from outdoors where there's all sorts of variables to indoors where the parameters are tighter? If you got walls, a ceiling, and a floor, and some furnishings.
You're a lot smarter than me. I don't really think in those terms.
Oh, we're all in trouble now. Uh-oh.
I had the idea, and I went to the first person's house, and I brought some lights. I thought, well, obviously, I'm going to have to light this up. And it was a disaster. The person was getting nervous, and I was getting nervous, and they were, the whole mojo was just over. In fact, I might have, I can't remember, but I might have even gone back and shot them a second time. They were gracious enough to let me do that.
So you're really flying by the seat of your pants to do this. This was all new, and you're just saying, okay, let's see what happens here.
100%.
Okay. Talk about challenges. Okay, that's good.
So then I realized I think I just need a flash. So I've never used a flash before. I'm not a flash person, so I bought a flash. Put it on my camera, and I figured that out, and that was it. Every problem solved. I just bounced it off the ceiling everywhere I went and got myself a really wide lens to get as much information as I could. And I was happy. That was it.
And did getting the book deal change anything other than maybe give you a little, like you said, a little fire under your butt? Did you think differently at that point? Did you say, all right, now I have to be a little more serious about this? Or did any kind of aspect of your approach change? No,
Jill, no. Absolutely not. The word serious, if you put that in front of me, I'm not doing it. If it's not fun, you're doing the wrong thing. That's cool. My motto.
Oh, that's a good attitude.
No, the only thing about the book was, as I'm told, a book can take 3 years, especially something like this where you have so much work to do. And they really cut that short. They wanted to hit the first available holiday sales season. So I basically did 2 years of shooting in 6 months. I handed the work in, And about maybe a week later, COVID hit. So at first I was like, what a drag. I did all this stuff and but in the end, it turned out to be better because even though they put it on the back burner because of COVID, last August, they, got it out and dusted it off and said, we're going to do this book. So had I have not handed it in that rush, it would never have happened because nobody was going to let me in their house with COVID.
Right.
True.
So
it's a good point.
Also, if I'm not mistaken, book sales have gone up a lot over COVID. I know I personally have started purchasing certain books, good books, not just regular readers, but more art kind of books, because of the fact that I suddenly had time to really appreciate them. So I have about 4 or 5 books in the past year that I probably wouldn't have purchased otherwise.
Huh. I don't know. My book did very well. Nobody was more surprised than me. It sold out in like 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah, no.
Because I only bought 200 copies. That's pretty good to hear. Okay, no.
I bought the other 200.
And Alan, you're not supposed to be selling them at a profit. I told you about that,
okay? Yeah, what was the run, Sally?
The first run was 3,000, very small. And now we just did another run of 6,000.
Oh, congratulations.
Those will be for sale in August. And hopefully, as retail starts to hopefully get wound up again for the holiday seasons, we'll sell them.
That's great.
Yeah.
So can I ask, I get the idea that, you want it as simple as possible, the gear, the setup, simple, and I totally understand this idea of not setting up lights and how that can mess with people. But what about, how long did you stay there? What were your conversations like? Did you did you engage people, or was it really like get on, get out? And did you direct people at all?
I brought my tap shoes, and I did a little tap dance when I first got there, lightened up the atmosphere, and then I bossed them around for 10 minutes and I left.
Okay.
Well, and then there was also the dog, which is a great little conversation starter.
Yes, my dog comes with me everywhere, and she sat there in her bag and, waited. Now, I would say the most I was anywhere was maybe a half an hour, and the quickest was probably 5 minutes.
Huh.
Wow.
The thing is that I was in touch with these people with emails because they had to fill out the Q&A and we had to go back and forth and, I get that all figured out. So by the time I arrived, we kind of had a bit of a friendship going already. You're telling a total stranger your life story. It kind of breaks the ice,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like I said, with the flash and the little spaces and that wide lens, there wasn't really that much chance involved. I just sat them down and left.
I know your number one direction was don't smile, but did you have to kind of work people a bit for the image you wanted? Did you take several takes? Did you offer any kind of direction in terms of their expression and the interaction?
I asked them first where they wanted to sit.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could make that work, I did that. I wanted them to be as much in control as possible. And some people just they wanted me to tell them.
Sure.
And that was fine too. And I would just sit them down and say, okay, sit there, don't move, and don't smile. And I know, but the first few, I didn't tell them that. And let me tell you, I got home and I thought, oh my God, this is like the book of frickin' smiles. Like, I can't have this.
Yeah.
You think a couple are nice, 100, pretty funny. You can't, that can't happen.
No, you don't want that.
Trying to get people to not smile for a photo is harder than you think. People they sit in front of a camera and they smile. It's like this, Pavlov thing.
Yeah.
I was looking through, looking for smiles, and one that I noticed was Joyce Pomeroy Schwartz, was the fact that she was sort of more of a public figure, do you think, made her less reticent about not smiling?
That's a good question, Jill. There was Joyce, and there's another woman named Jackie Ferrara. And I just want to go on record that both of those ladies are 90. And
Wow.
I thought, well, this is going to be different. I went there, and again, I've never been to any of these people's places. So I go there and I thought, a nurse's aide or somebody was going to come to the door. Oh my God. They both just pounded up to the door. They both live by themselves in homes they've lived in their whole lives. And one of them was like, oh my God, I had a dinner party in here last night. There was 50 people here. I don't even know who they are anymore. They just come here and the staff makes the dinner and they leave. I don't know. So it was incredible to meet these, and both of those ladies smiled. And I felt they could do whatever they wanted. When you're 90 and you're having a dinner party with 50 people you don't know, you can do whatever the hell you want in my photo, and it'll be fine.
There's one image, though, there's several we want to ask about maybe in the second half of the show, but while we're here talking about getting people set up and where they are, there's a shot of two women, one who's in the bathtub. Now, I assume that she wasn't there, or maybe she was when you showed up. How'd that come about?
Thank you for asking that question, John, because I was curious too.
That was one of yours? Okay.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
They look like a great couple.
Well, first of all, they are a great couple.
Yeah.
And, again, I've never been to their apartment. I got there, and I kind of know these women, and they're both fascinating, interesting people. And I got to their apartment, and I just, in the first, the 10-second sweep, I couldn't see anything in there that really I thought was going to really, represent how great they were. And just as I was trying to figure out what we were going to do, the woman in the bathtub, Lois, said, well, why don't we go in the bathroom? And I said, great, let's go in the bathroom. And then she said, what, do you want me to get in the tub? And I said, yeah, get in the tub. So it was like a clickety-click thing. And,
Right.
Again, we were done in 10 minutes.
It's so great when people are, willing to collaborate and have fun with it too. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I really like how you kept in the frame in the final crop, I don't know if you cropped images at all, but their mail that's sitting over on the desk. I think that just opens up,
Yes.
the experience completely to get a little hint of the rest of their world,
Yeah, I definitely did that on purpose because, the oddity of being in the bathroom, there wasn't really that much showing who they were. And I wanted something to tell you that they were at home,
Mm-hmm,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you crop the pictures very much? Because the crops are so decisive. When I was looking for a top shot for the article that I wrote, it was so hard to find anything that we could crop.
Yeah, I'm not a big cropper.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I can't really remember. I don't think with the woman in the bathtub that I did crop that. I'm ultimately really lazy. I'm out, that's where I do all my work. I don't want to come home and sit in front of my computer, for 6 hours. Further on that idea, I only took maybe 4, 5, or 6 photos at anybody's place.
Oh, that's great.
Some people go and they come home with 50 photos or 100 photos. And that's just not me. It's like you get it or you don't, for me. And I knew when I got it.
Is that the same when you're working in the street or in other settings? Yeah.
I take even less in the street.
Gotcha. Huh.
Yeah.
Simple question maybe, but what did you learn from this project? Or learn that you didn't know, perhaps, not necessarily about photography or maybe about photography, but just in general about New Yorkers and life and art and photography? Anything in particular?
It wasn't so much a learning process as it was an affirmation of what I already know. And that was why I enjoyed doing it so much. And truthfully, I could do this until I died and I would never get sick of it.
Yeah.
People are incredible, from the poorest to the most wealthy. And everybody's amazing. And everybody loves their stuff. And their stuff tells their story. And even if it's a minimalist whose lack of stuff tells their story.
Right.
Yeah.
And did you feel that the spaces matched the people, or at least the expectations that you had for their spaces?
Well, first of all, I hate to keep saying no to your questions, but I had no expectations because I had never been to the people's homes. So it really was just like, well, bang and knock, knock, knock.
Well,
What?
I mean,
Like,
you must have thought, like, for example, Michael Musto. I'll just think of a few people. I mean, I don't know. I can in my head at least draw some kind of image of what I think his house might look like. And I'm just curious if there were, maybe it was somebody who you knew already or was well known, and you might have had an idea or a thought anyway.
no.
Okay.
I really worked hard on not getting that going in my head, because, no matter what you get in your head, it's never going to be what's really there. And it's going to throw you off when you arrive. It's like, well, wait, this isn't what I thought this was going to be.
Right.
I got pretty good at that.
Yeah.
By the way, that's a very interesting point that you bring up, that I think is something that I got a long time ago also. I freelanced for a while, and I think it's automatic when you get an assignment or when you're going someplace, you have even to travel or just for a day shoot, just for the heck of it, you have these images in your head, what you think is going to be. You start mentally preparing yourself for what you're going to find when you get where you've never been. And it's seldom the case. And I think it's really important to be able to keep yourself extremely open and don't try to keep preconceptions down. Now, I think it's important to keep a little bit of preconception because you have to have some kind of guidance, like when you walk in the door, what you're going to do, have some kind of a plan. But try not to preconceive too much about what to expect when you're there, because it's going to throw you off, and you have to be totally fresh and open when you walk in to say, okay, what's here and what's going to work, rather than first dig out, okay, well, this ain't here, this isn't happening. Just don't even go there. It's an important thing. Yeah, no, I can't stress this enough. I had absolutely no clue. Like, for example, I think a couple of good examples. The fellow who has the coffins in his living room. I thought I was the only one.
You're not going to expect that. And the funny part about that fellow, he was the nicest guy. He's legally blind, too. His apartment was so clean, you could have eaten off the floor. And he wanted me to shoot him in front of his Jack Daniel's swag collection in the kitchen. So I was going to do that. I thought, well, this will be a good photo. And then as I was leaving, I looked in the living room and I'm like, is that a coffin? And he's like, yeah, like this is, and the one it's all tricked out is he's sitting on one. The back opens and it's the back of the sofa. And there was another little one that when you opened it, it was like an Elvis bar. It was all gold lame and it lit up. And I was like, no, let's just shut that. Like, that's a whole, I can't do that today. And then there was the woman Marina Press in the whole pink thing. I arrived at her house, and she's one of the few people that I knew. And she answered the door in that vintage Dior, whatever it is, beautiful thing. And she had painted her whole living room pink for the photo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, well, you deserve everything you get from this, for that. I mean, who could not love that?
Yeah.
Didn't expect that either.
I mean, did you expect the guy with the Colonel Sanders fireplace? I mean, who could expect these kind of places? That's incredible.
Oh my God. Stephen.
Crazy.
No, and he was a referral. I know a lot of people in the movie business that work in the movie business, and an art director that I know said, you should contact this guy Stephen. He's super nice, and he's got a great apartment. That was it.
Yeah,
all she said.
Right.
So what everybody thinks they have a great apartment. What does that even mean? So he's like, yeah, sure. Oh my God! I walked in that apartment, and I started laughing. I was like, let's just do a whole book on you and your apartment. That was one room. Should have seen the other rooms. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I have to make a decision here and get out of here before I'm sucked into the amazingness of this guy's house and I never leave.
There's a photo of you as well included, no?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm assuming that's your apartment?
Yes.
It's pretty awesome. And who took the photo?
I did.
Okay. And any thoughts on why you wanted to include yourself and how many takes, and did you tell yourself not to smile, and how did you treat yourself differently?
I did tell myself not to smile. I'll tell you, it's not easy. It's even harder for yourself. But, my dog is in that photo too. So
yeah, I'm looking at it.
I've got the thing set up on the tripod, which I never use. And I've got a remote, clicker. And every time I looked okay, my dog was like, looking the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably took about 10 or 12 of those to get one that was, usable.
When in the series did you do that shot? Towards the beginning or the end, the middle?
No, towards the end, Jill. I put it off. It was like I was like, oh God, do I really want to be in this book? But I kind of did. I felt like I'm a New Yorker. I'm like one of the people in the book. We're all the same,
Okay, we are going to take a short break and we come back more with Sally Davies. Stay tuned.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the B&H Photography Podcast. The best way to support the show is by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. For links to gear and more information on today's guests, check out the show notes in your podcast app or visit our homepage on the B&H Explorer website and join the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group. And now, back to the show.
Okay, we are back. Sally, I have a question for you, but I also want to make a comment first before we start. I'm going through your Instagram account here, and there's one photograph that you have that is just so powerful, and it's kind of different from the other pictures you have. It's a photograph taken out a window. I don't know if it's from your apartment or whatever, but you're overlooking the rooftop of the house across the street, the building across the street, and it's snow-covered, and there's a wheelchair in the middle of the roof. And it is hauntingly beautiful and powerful, and the composition is amazing, the color's amazing, but I keep staring at that picture, and there's a lot of really good photography here. This one just knocks me out, and I don't know why, but it's a powerful picture. It really is. And that said, I'm going to segue into what I was originally start talking about. You have some interesting photographs of storefronts in New York City, a lot of them at dusk. And I've actually spent a lot of time over the years photographing storefronts in the city, in the outer boroughs. And what's amazing about them is that they're so one of a kind and original, and they're period pieces, and they are the graphic design expressions of different times. And now everything is all chain stores and every block pretty much looks the same. But these are as interesting as individual people. But then you take it a step further, and many of these storefronts have interesting automobiles in front of them, which have their own story going on. And when you start seeing 3, 4, 5, 6 of those going on, it becomes a very powerful series. How far did you carry that? Because to me, that's a book by itself, these cars and these storefronts, and they're just great.
Yeah, I would like to do a book of my cars. I love cars. There's not that many vintage cars in New York City. So when I see one, I grab it.
But when you see them, they're pretty unique. There are some interesting automobiles floating around Midtown.
Really?
And downtown, yeah.
No, I don't know. I think they're used. Well,
we have to go out together, maybe.
Yeah, really. Let's do that. No, there used to be more, but I'm particularly interested in a vintage car that's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody bought it, and they're going to fix it up, but they haven't because they don't have any money yet, or it's just going to sit there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The red tape over the taillights, because the taillight doesn't just put red tape on it. It's the same thing.
There's your story. I go out to California a lot, and there's, oh my God, you just stand on the corner.
Oh, yeah.
And, so what? You missed it. Here comes another one. Like it's kind of makes me feel guilty out there shooting those cars. It's not that much fun anymore because there's so many of them.
It's like fish in a barrel. Yeah.
The poorer neighborhoods, which I troll. I have a bicycle out there too, and I bike around. You might find those old cars that are just like the guy can afford to collect them, but he can't really afford to fix them.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have a front yard down in the barrio of 3 or 4 old crazy cars. That's my thing.
Yep.
And is there another project in the works in that sense? I mean, are you still kind of caught up in this, or are you thinking about that next book?
Books are so epic. I've never done one before. This was quite a life-changing thing. And they just take so long,
Mm-hmm.
No, I have some things I'd like to do book-wise. I'd like to do a book on the cars. I'd like to do just a book on my street night stuff. I have so much of that work,
What about the portraits of the Californians that you did in your most recent trip out there?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I don't really feel like I'm done with the people at home. I feel like I just scratched the surface. The truth of it is, I could probably do a book on just my building, let alone my block or this city. There's just, if you can take a good photo, you've got yourself an interesting story, especially in this city. So I was just out in LA and I shot about 16 or 17 people at home out there. And I brought those home with me, and I'm, hopefully I'm going to do a book of that. It'll be the same thing, but people in Cali instead of here.
And you mentioned that you're a painter also and an artist, of course. Did photography come later in your art, career, or your art development, or was that always there?
I always took photos. My father gave me a camera when I was about 14. And when I went back to school, it was a long time ago. It was when I go to school, 80-something, 81 or 82, 81, I think. It never occurred to me that I could be a photographer. That's a real thing. Mm-hmm. That was just something that I did for fun. It's not a real thing. Well, I know. Well, now I know that it's not a real thing. So that was just a really fun thing for me. And I just kind of secretly, took pictures all the time. And the great thing about being so naive is that nobody cared what I was doing in that regard. Even at school, I took photo as a minor, but nobody took me seriously with photography. So I got to do whatever I wanted. Nobody was looking at me and going, what's she doing? And, is that any good or is it not any good? So, so I guess to answer your question, I've always taken photos.
No, but that free space is very important. I mean, I see it in these conversations that we have with other artists and photographers. And I mean, even thinking about this old podcast, sometimes just having no eyes on you, a little bit of freedom to do what you want is the way interesting things are born.
Oh, it's absolutely a must. You start to have an agenda, as soon as you're showing and people are judging your work and, starts to get in there. Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
I'm kind of curious. Are you familiar? I'm sure you're familiar with, but do you know the work of Saul Leiter? And
please, love Saul's work.
Right. I mean, thinking about painting as well as the East Village and his work, and cars for that matter too. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful things by him. One of my regrets, and I don't have many, but that I never introduced myself to him and got to know him before he passed away.
Right. Did you bump into him on the street? I mean, would you have recognized him if you did?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I imagine you guys probably walk the same blocks a few times taking pictures.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, cool. I actually have a question about one particular photo, actually a few photos. And if you guys don't mind, Alan, again, Jill, jump in anytime. But sure. I wanted to ask about a couple images in the book again. The first one is a woman with her dog in her lap. And I'm just crazy about her refrigerator magnets. And I imagine, well, I don't know. You can tell me, did she want to sit in that spot? Was that her choice? Or did you just see, that refrigerator filled with magnets and said it has to be in?
That's one of my favorite photos in the book, just saying. Her and her friend live in that apartment. The entire apartment is probably 250 square feet. And they've lived there since 1971. And it's not renovated. So there wasn't a lot of places to sit her. Her partner is not well and takes up the living room space, which is, 9 by 8 feet. So there was no choice. It was like, that's it. It's just, and I walked in. I've been in that apartment before. She's my neighbor and, I know her. I've been in that apartment before, but this time she had taken things down to clean and she had taken the Last Supper down and put it on the table. And she was like, oh, let me put that back up. It's hanging like 8 feet up by the ceiling too, right? And I'm like, no, just right, just get Sparky and sit in that chair. And she was very nervous. She's a bit of an off the grid person. And so really, she did this as a favor to me, I think.
That's nice. Actually, looking at it in the detail, there's a box of, it may be food, I don't know, but it says "I give hope" underneath the image of the Last Supper, and obviously her other religious images. But it, along with the refrigerator magnets and the colors and the fake fruit, it's just perfect.
Yeah, well, it's a 14th Street extravaganza.
Totally.
All right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I want to add one thing to your fridge magnet thing.
Mm-hmm.
The whole kitchen. Now, I don't know if any of you remember this or have lived here long enough, but back in the old days, it was very common to find metal kitchen cabinets.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Porcelain
Not
enamel.
wood.
Porcelain enamel.
Well, is that what they were?
Yeah, a lot of them did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so what you can't see is the rest of the kitchen is covered in magnets.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah. And that was, I shot her early on in the project, and it was before I got that 18 millimeter lens. And I thought, oh, just to get that whole kitchen in a shot would have been something, but I couldn't do it.
And speaking of the lens, what was your gear setup? What camera, what lens? Did you use a tripod? I mean, I know you said.
Oh my God, no! Tripods are not us. I hate tripods. I don't use them ever anywhere for anything.
Right.
So I shoot with Sony all the time. I have an A7R III.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what my initial, I think it was maybe a 2.8 or something lens, but I quickly realized that was not going to work because I really wanted to get the people's stuff in. And some of these apartments were so small that I couldn't get back far enough from the person even, right? So I just went out and bought that. I bought an 18 millimeter Zeiss.
Well, see, as long as you're holding that, especially a Zeiss, those are well corrected. As long as you're holding it straight ahead, there's not much in the way of distortions as far as straight lines. It's a well corrected lens in that sense. So that's pretty much a choice. I thought you'd be using at least a 24, but 18 would make sense for that. It really, really would. You just don't want to stick anybody's head in the corner of the frame. That's all.
Correct.
I find it interesting that you didn't use a tripod. I like the flexibility of not working with a tripod, but I also like the fact that when you're on a tripod, you could walk away and come back and it's still there. And in particular, when photographing people, my experience, again, has always been, and again, this is being photographed too, that when the photographer is behind the camera, you're looking at that lens, it kind of makes it a little bit more impersonal. Whereas if you're on a tripod, you could maintain a dialogue and a visual eye contact with the person you're photographing. Was that a consideration for you at all, or is it just not the way you want to work?
Just not the way I want to work. First of all, I'm, schlepping all over the city with a dog in a bag and my equipment in another bag. I didn't want to have to schlep a tripod with me. And that would have required setting up the tripod, putting my camera on it, getting the flash on it. You know what I mean? The moment is lost already. Keep in mind that some of these places, like the guy Gerald at the Chelsea Hotel photo.
Yeah.
I took that photo in 3 minutes and left.
Okay.
I walked in. I thought, oh my God, what the? Look at this place. I said, and there wasn't a lot of furniture in there. So it was kind of it was either going to be this or that. I said, Gerald, go sit over there. He assumed his position. I took a photo and left. Really, I think I took 2 shots in there.
Oh, wow.
So had I have had to just futz around with stuff, it just, yeah.
Well, just as a quick thought, if you have the dog with you all the time, if you get an elastic chin strap and you put a 1/4-inch thread on the top of it, you could use the dog's head as a tripod. Just hold the dog in your lap, and I'm just thinking out loud, okay? And you've got the dog with you already. It's just a matter of a chin strap and a 1/4 thread.
She would do it too, let me tell you. Well-trained assistant, this little thing.
And did that same kind of attitude, I think you mentioned this already, but when you were working with people who were, let's say, for example, Laurie Anderson, or people who were of some renown, who are more familiar with photo shoots and maybe expected a longer shoot, did you give them the same treatment kind of in and out, or did you have, even just for your own sake of wanting to, kind of enjoy being with them and soaking up some of their style? No, same thing.
No, first of all, there's not a lot of sort of famous people in this book. There's a few, couple maybe, and I promised them that I would be in and out in 10 minutes.
Right.
And I really believe that was part of the reason that they said sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, I was like, I promise, all I need is this Q&A and I will be in and out. Yeah. And like in the case of Lori, I mean, her apartment is so gigantic. It was a little harder to tell a story of her. You know, like when you have a little room full of personal things, there's your shot. When you get into this big gargantuan space, it's like, well, where am I going to put this person? You know, so that the viewer is getting something here. And Lori was really funny. You know, we both quickly decided she was very busy, so I really had to hurry up. You know, I said, okay. I looked around. I said, you sit on that couch, and she called her dog Will, and they sat there. And I was just about to take the picture, and she jumped up and said, "Oh, wait a second." And she ran out of the frame and ran back with that stuffed beaver that is sitting on the arm of the couch. And I'm like, okay. You know, but you know what? In hindsight, I mean, I think we were both kind of in the same vibe. Like she wanted something personal in there.
Yeah.
And so that was it. And I have no idea why, but that's what she picked. And there you go.
Well, having been in that space before, I think you picked a good location because that is a large open living room. And it's like a burgundy theater drapes, like you used to have in the old movie theaters. Before they have these giant drapes that they pull aside, and then the screen was behind it. That's kind of like what those windows are like. Those windows are like 20 feet tall, and you've got this theatrical drapes in front of it. It's a perfect place, and it works real well.
Well, it's the big reveal.
Yeah.
And I think, that was sort of on my mind, that I think the viewer feels like the curtain has been pulled back, even if just symbolically, and we're getting to see this person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are several portraits where the people in their apartments have their pets with them, and you brought your dog with you. Was there ever any interaction between, you know, your dog and the people's pets? Or
no, none. My dog sits in her bag until she's told she can join the party, and so she just sat there and watched.
And the other dogs or whatever were all well behaved?
Yeah. I mean, you're right, Jill. That could have gone another way, but it didn't. Thank God.
I also wanted to ask about a couple other people, and they're not well known, I suppose, outside of New York or my world. But Suzanne Maluk, who was a former colleague and friend of mine, and a friend of yours, which is great to see people that you know in a book. And also Delphine Blue. I don't know if people know who she is, but she's a great DJ here in the city. Was she a friend? And was that photo included in the book? I'm not really sure because I saw it on your Instagram account.
Yes, Delphine is definitely in the book. Absolutely. Okay. And I wanted to have her in there.
Was she somebody you knew, or was that one of the lucky coincidences?
Delphine and I are not really good friends, but we're certainly friendly, and we have a lot of friends in common. Mm-hmm. But when I was editing the book, there were several people who were DJs.
Oh.
And, they were all amazing. So it was difficult to pick. But I ended up picking Delphine because the other ones were all men. And I kind of liked the idea that she was not a man in that.
And can we talk about the editing a little bit? I mean, I know that you shot, I think it was like 125 images and 72 were in the book. And how much of the final cut was yours? And how did you go back and forth with the editors?
Editing. Is it everyone's least favorite thing?
Of course. Especially when you got to cut out people you like and photos you like, stuff like that.
Please. Thank you for saying that. You know, here quickly, how this started, the person who signed me up to the book deal was the person who had me in that other book. And he was the person, his name is Jason Hook. And he is the person who really loves my work, got what I was doing, and was excited about the project. And him and I had done a lot of talking back and forth what we were going to do. And then he quit. Not me, but he quit the company.
Yikes.
So, please. I just start to get agitated thinking about it. So all of a sudden my person was gone, and COVID hit, and then they pulled it out and they assigned me to this, editor that I didn't know, that didn't know me or what I was trying to do. it was stressful.
Hmm.
So I had the most input into the finals, but we had to work together. I mean, they would come back and go, look, there's 6 people in the bathtub.
Right.
I'm like, oh God, or there's like 14 people in the kitchen. It's a visual book, and you have to do that. It has to work visually.
But you mentioned about the fact that there were several DJs and you had to pick one. So it even extended to people's occupations and things like that?
Well, Jill, it didn't really, except in the case of the DJs. That's a really good point. In the case of the DJs, again, I've never been to any of these people's apartments. So you walk into these apartments, and they were all people who had had apartments for 40 years here. They were all like little railroads, or small apartments. And each DJ's apartment was sort of identical in a way. They were just wall-to-wall records. Like a person who didn't understand DJs might say they were hoarders. but they weren't. It was just that as their life went on, the furniture got chucked because they needed another wall for records. And nobody moves out of these rent-controlled apartments, which was part of the thing of the book that I hope the reader kind of gets.
Yeah.
And it's why we're still here.
Yeah.
If we didn't have those kind of apartments, we wouldn't be here anymore.
Yeah, there are some portraits in sort of newer, cleaner spaces, and I wondered, did those spaces resonate as much with you, or did it become more about the person in those sort of clean, contemporary spaces?
I was grateful for every different kind of space when I got in it, because this is a book about New Yorkers, and it can't just be all people like me or you. You know what I mean? We had to I tried to show people in different neighborhoods, people of different ages, people in different income groups, and some people, not very many, as you can tell from the book, but not a lot of people live minimally here. Even the people that are wealthy, they're surrounded with stuff. It's just more expensive stuff.
And quite often smaller things, too. You don't collect large objects. I mean, one of your subjects had, 8,000 Pez dispensers behind her desk, which I like that.
I love that lady. She well, again, you can't tell from that photo, but she collected everything. And the thing about her was, it was if I told you what she collected, you would go, "Oh my God, there's a hoarder." But actually, no. Every single thing in that apartment had a place, and it was dust free. Like if you went into the bathroom and she said, "Oh yeah, look in the bathroom. Maybe you want to go and shoot me in there." I pulled the shower curtain back, and there was this beautiful collection of vintage toys, shrink wrapped in plastic, on the wall inside the shower. So it's like, wow, this is a story here. This is how people live.
I'd love to spend a few hours inside that person's head just to know what's going on in there, because that sounds fascinating, quite honestly.
Well, the scary thing is that I totally got her.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what that says about me. But I was like, of course there's shrink wrap plastic things hanging up inside the shower. Why wouldn't there be? Like, it's perfect.
And why didn't I ever think of that? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, she all of her stuff was vintage. A lot of those shrink wrap toys were from the 60s. So she had it was like a little time capsule in there. And even the Pez collection, I only got so much in the frame. Those shelves go up about 5 more shelves, and the Pez collections get very elaborate. Like, there's one of all of the presidents.
Oh, wow.
Just like that. So use your imagination.
You talked about rent control apartments and people who've been in their spaces for a long time, and reading some of the comments, we didn't talk much about this aspect of the book, but people, they tell their version of their story a little bit, and there's text and commentary in the book. And some of it seemed to go along the lines of, New York is great, but it used to be better. I mean, is that something that was a thread that worked its way through the book intentionally, or
no,
did it just come out based on the people you were speaking with?
Yeah, nothing was intentional.
Yeah. And did you? Do you feel the book? Looking back now, does it represent New York to you? Do you feel like you got the cross section you wanted?
No, of course not.
Okay.
I could have put 1,000 people in. That could have been the almanac of New Yorkers if they would have let me.
Right.
Because it just kept morphing as I went along, and finally, I was like, oh, really? You're only going to use 72 of these? Well, okay, I need to stop now.
Yeah.
No, I think it's layered and you can connect the dots yourself. But people who I photographed who had a rent-controlled apartment, who obviously they've had that apartment for 40 years or more. So I think anybody who's of our age, who's had an apartment and still here, they're going to have a comment about the old days. My parents did. I do. Young people can't stand listening to me talk. I'm always like, oh my God, in the old days this would never have happened. Or, I remember Joe at the corner, and it's like, oh, shut up. So it's inevitable that I think that those people would remember fondly the old days. Things change, life changes, and it's really difficult to stay relevant. Even if you're not making something or in a career, just on the planet. It's hard. It's hard to keep plugged in for your whole life as things change so radically.
Well, the other thing is that there's so much change on the outside that people can control their interior, and, it's sort of a consistency of what is around them.
That's a good point. Yep.
For me, the most successful photos and the ones that make me the happiest and that I think really are honest are the ones where the people just become another thing in the collection of stuff in the photo. We are our stuff, Yeah.
Okay, that is the wrap of another show. Jill, we'd like to thank you for joining us today as our guest interviewer again. Nice to have you back on our show. Anything you want to plug? Any projects you're working on? Anything coming up for you?
Thanks, Alan. Well, there's an Explora story about Sally's work that will be published in conjunction with this podcast. It's a Q&A, so people should look out for that.
Good points. Okay, very good. And again, great having you on the show again. We'll have to do this again sometime, eh? And Sally, websites, Instagram, if people want to catch up more of your work, where can they go to?
Probably my site, sallydaviesphoto.com. There's links on there to my social media places also.
And you have an Instagram account?
I do. Sally Davies Photo.
Okay. And also New Yorkers, which is published by Ammonite Press of the United Kingdom. Catch that book also. And all of this information will be on our show notes. So if you didn't have a pencil handy to jot all that down, it'll be on the show notes. You won't miss it. And if you enjoy listening to the B&H Photography Podcast, you can let our boss know how much you love it by subscribing to our show. All you have to do is go to Spotify or wherever you snag your favorite podcast and type in B&H Photography Podcast, hit enter, and boom, you'll never miss another episode. And if you're already a subscriber, take a moment, leave a nice comment. The boss reads this stuff too. It all adds up. And you could always find us on the B&H Explore website and on the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group page. All of that said, my name is Alan Weitz. And on behalf of John Harris and Jason Tables, thank you so much for tuning in today.